Howdy, folks. Welcome to Mower Mike's. We got a little different shot for you today. I'm coming at you live from my research and development center outside of the shop, or it's just where I keep all my broke crap. I tell you what, I don't know what's going on lately. It must be this cooler weather, but everybody's just giving up on their yard equipment and pushing it out to the street. And it's just an absolute gold mine on our street out here in North Texas. I have picked up so much free crap off the road. It's just it's amazing. I've got trimmers, blowers, all sorts of crap I've just picked up free because when people have their broke crap, they just don't want to fix it. Today, we're going to talk about this Murray lawnmower I got from about 4 houses down, just sitting out in the yard. Well, it was sitting out in the driveway, so I think it was free. But it has a very, very common issue, especially with these Briggs & Stratton motors. Now, if this is happening to you on your free mower or your current mower, where you're pulling it and it'll pull, but it's just really hard to pull. It's not going clunk, but it just feels like it's got way too much compression and it just gets stuck. I tell you what, you are absolutely in luck because this is one of the easiest fixes ever, but nobody really knows about. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back inside the shop. We're gonna adjust the valves and take a look at a very, very easy fix and see if we can get this free lawnmower going again. And I'll probably just get back to him. Anyways, stay with me. Whoa, things are getting weird. Mower's doing a wheelie. Anyways, I know that is not that funny. I don't know why I laugh so much. But seriously, folks, when I work on a lawnmower, I just want to cover a couple of ways how I like to work on a lawnmower, specifically a push mower. Now, we're going to be working up front on the lawnmower right there. That is the valve covers we're going to be taking off, and I don't like working on them when they're on the ground. So a real easy little trick is to tilt them backwards. So I put a weight down there, tilt it backwards. I do this anytime I'm working on a lawnmower. Just makes it easier, and you always want to tilt backwards. That way you don't have fluids pouring all over the place, which will pour all over the place if you tilt it to either side. Another note, I always like to clean these engines before I start working on them because we're going to be looking at some internal engine components and you don't want a bunch of muck coming off there. So I actually pressure wash the outside of it. You could probably just get a hose in there just to get the gunk off before we start pulling some seals off. So just a couple of notes. Next, we're going to zoom in and start doing some cool wrenching. All right, now let's have some real fun. Now, if your pull cord on your lawnmower is hard to pull, that sounds to me most likely like there's something out of adjustment with your valves. Either your valve adjustment is off or maybe you have a bent push rod. All of that business is down below your valve cover. So we need to pull the valve cover off. But first, what I'd like to do is go ahead and remove the spark plug. Now, when you remove the spark plug, it just makes it much easier to work on your valves because you have removed all the compression. Now, the valve covers are held on by 5/16 bolts. I've already got them off, so we don't bore you to death with me wrenching. All right, so what have we got here? Yep. So the way this works is that below here, you've got a couple of push rods. They're just skinny little rods that rides on the engine crankshaft. Actually, rides on lifters, rides on the crankshafts. But as the engine turns, it pushes this up and pushes this down. So this side of the rocker arm pushes down on the valve and closes the valve. And you've got a valve for exhaust and got a valve for intake. The exhaust lets the exhaust out, intake lets air and fuel in. Now what happens is these valves get out of adjustment. And when they get out of adjustment, it makes it much harder. They're not opening the valves at the right time. So in order to check all this fancy engine business, what we need to do is to get the engine at top dead center. Because when the engine is at top dead center, what that means is that the piston, now you can look down here through your spark plug hole, that means your piston is pushed all the way out and has that combustion chamber closed. And when that combustion chamber is closed, what that means is that these valves are closed. So your rocker arms are not pushing down on them. And when they're not pushing down on them, that is when we do our adjustment. So in order to find top dead center, find something clean and shove it in the hole. All right, and then you're gonna pull your ripcord and just go up and down and wait until it's pushed all the way out. Now these have very short strokes, so there, I think that's it. All right, well, now you're gonna have top dead center on the combustion stroke and the exhaust. Now one of them is going to have one of these valves still pushed down like I've got here. So if you're at the top dead center, like, whoa, Mike, one of them's still hard to adjust, do another round. Go all the way down, pull it all the way back up, There you go. And now you can see we are at top dead center and both these valves are closed. And I already can see the issue here. I mean, these valves, they should have 3 to 5 thousandths room right here. And you can see these have probably a 1/4 inch. So as these engines run, they just get these out of adjustment. And when you're not pushing down the exhaust or the intake at the right time, that means your compression is all screwed up and it makes it very, very hard to adjust. But I want to show you guys one thing before we start messing with that. I would like to go ahead and remove these rocker arms, because sometimes some of y'all might open this up and actually see one of your push rods just hanging out, or you might have one bent. So that is another check that you can do. Now, if you think your valves are just out of adjustment, you can go ahead and skip forward a couple of minutes and I'll show you that. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna take these all the way off. Now, these are just held on by 8mm bolts. I'm just gonna rip them off here with the old Dewalt. There we go. We'll just take one off, how about that? All right, and then you can just take that rocker arm off. Now when you do this, always try to keep everything clean and aesthetic, because this is internal engine work. And right there, as you can see, that is your push rod, that little tiny rod. So what you want to do, you want to take this out and just take a look at it. You can roll it along like a flat surface, and what you want is to make sure this sucker is straight and it's not bent. What happens is sometimes these engines overheat and causes these push rods to get bent. Now this one here, I've already checked and they are all straight. And when you put them in, wiggle them around and make sure they are seated down in there. And then when you put your rocker arm back on, now on your rocker arm, you're gonna see one's got a little nipple on it and the other side doesn't. That little nipple is where that push rod sits. So like so, and then you just adjust them back down. And you can do this while it's at top dead center, because when you reinstall these, you're gonna have to adjust the valve lash, is what we call it anyways. So I always like just taking them off, screw it, why not, right? All right, so next we're going to adjust our valves. Now, typically Briggs & Stratton engine valves, we call it valve lash. That's gonna be your clearance between your rocker arm tip and the actual valve. I can see that's way too much. So what you're gonna need is a feeler gauge, and we're gonna go ahead and find, let's see, 0.003, 0.00, there we go. We got 0.004 inches on your feeler gauge. I know that's kind of hard to see. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna slide it through here, and we need to, these are too tight. I mean, these are too loose, so it's not opening the valves. So what we need to do, we need to tighten the adjuster nut. Now, these adjuster nuts, this is a newer model, and all it is on this one is just an 8mm bolt. And it's got some sort of lock nut on it. I have never seen one like this, but all you do is you tighten it down very, very slowly until you feel it where it's just tight in there, but it's not too tight. Here, let's go ahead and do one. See, these are way out of whack because of this new design. There we go. Well, that's a little. So you want it tight, but not too tight. You want to be able to push that feeler gauge in there and feel both sides just like that. There you go. So that's an adjustment. And next what we're gonna do the other one who's way out of whack also. There we go. All right. So now these are both in adjustment. I want to tell you one thing though. Sometimes a lot of the motors, what they're going to have, this outer nut is just a lock nut, and on the inside you're going to have what's called a star bit. This would be a T10 typically bit, and this one is not that way, so it's kind of hard to show you. But how it would work is that you would take a little bit like this, which I'll put a link below to these, and you loosen up that nut, and then you adjust the innard. It's going to have a little inlet right there, and you just screw it and you do that same adjustment, and then once you have it just right, then you tighten that outer lock nut. Now I've got all sorts of other valve lash adjustments on riding lawnmowers that shows that process. I'll put a couple links below. But for now, we should be good, folks. So as you can see right here, as we go down, see they're pushing, 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 and it doesn't have all that slop in there that it had before. So my theory is that now that we have the valves adjusted right, we got everything opening right, hopefully it is easier to pull and we can light this sucker back up. So I'm gonna go ahead and strap that thing back on, and hey, we're gonna see if this free lawnmower actually starts without ripping my freaking arm off. So stay with me. All right, now's the time for the big test of the free lawnmower, just with a valve adjustment. We'll see if we can get her started. Again, this is a lawnmower that's just sitting on the street. Somebody did not want because they could not pull the cord. So let's see here. Ow, that that wasn't a good start. Now, one thing to remember, this thing's gonna sound a little funky because I do not have a blade on it. Running like a damn top, I tell you what. That is just awesomeness now right there. Again, I think with this new design, without the little lock nut on there, these valves get out of adjustment quite a bit quicker than the old design. So definitely something to check. I'll put all the tools I use down below, along with the feeler gauge and different tools. And also I put a new air filter set up on here, and I'll go ahead and list the carburetor on here too if you need one of those down below. So with that, Mower Mike's out. Thanks for sticking around. Another fun fix. Let's see if I can fix the next one or if I'll break it. Well, I guess we'll just have to sit around and find out. I'm out.